Elisha's army of angels in every religion, the vision that paralyzed a kingdom. Imagine being surrounded by danger, with enemies closing in on every side, and then, out of nowhere, a hidden army appears, invisible to the human eye, ready to protect you. This isn't just a story from the Bible about Elisha's army of angels. It's a vision reflected across every major religion, from Islam to Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. Today, we explore how this unseen force of divine protection has inspired faith, courage, and hope in believers for thousands of years, and what it can teach us about the hidden powers guiding our own lives. In Christianity, Elisha's army of angels, the heavenly forces, hidden from human eyes. In Christianity, the story of Elisha and the unseen army of angels is one of the most powerful reminders that divine help often exists beyond human sight. This event is described in the second book of Kings, where the prophet Elisha and his servant were surrounded by a hostile army sent to capture them. The servant became terrified when he saw the enemy forces covering the city. But Elisha remained calm and prayed that God would open his servant's eyes. Suddenly, the servant saw the hills filled with heavenly horses and chariots of fire, an invisible army of angels sent for protection. This story carries deep spiritual meaning. It teaches believers that fear often comes from seeing only physical problems, while faith grows when we trust in God's unseen power. The message is simple yet profound. Divine protection can exist even when circumstances appear impossible. For many Christians, this moment strengthens the belief that angels are not just symbolic figures, but real servants of God who help and guard people according to His will. Even today, this story inspires hope, courage, and trust, reminding us that we are never truly alone, even in our most difficult moments. In Islam, Elisha's army of angels and the reality of divine unseen assistance. In Islam, the idea of unseen divine help is a deeply rooted belief, and the story connected with Elisha, known as Elisha in biblical tradition, reflects this spiritual reality. Although the detailed narrative of the army of angels is not described in the same way as in other traditions, the Quran repeatedly teaches that Allah supports His prophets and believers through unseen forces. Angels in Islam are real creations of Allah, made from light, who carry out divine commands and assist at critical moments. Islamic teachings emphasize that faith is not limited to what human eyes can see. Throughout history, believers are reminded that divine protection often comes silently and unexpectedly. For example, during the life of Prophet Muhammad, Muslims believe that angels were sent to strengthen believers in times of great difficulty, showing that unseen help is part of Allah's wisdom and mercy. This concept gives powerful spiritual reassurance. When situations seem overwhelming, Allah's support may already be present beyond human perception. The message inspires patience, trust, and courage, teaching that true strength comes from reliance on Allah. For many Muslims, this belief transforms fear into faith and reminds them that no challenge is greater than divine protection. In Judaism, Elisha's army of angels and the secret of God's angelic hosts. In Judaism, the story of Elisha and the unseen army of angels is one of the most powerful reminders of divine protection recorded in the Hebrew Bible, particularly in the second book of Kings. According to the narrative, the prophet Elisha and his servant were surrounded by a powerful enemy army. The servant became terrified when he saw the soldiers covering the hills, believing there was no escape. But Elisha remained calm and prayed that God would open the servant's eyes. Suddenly, the servant's vision changed. He saw the mountains filled with heavenly horses and chariots of fire, an invisible angelic force sent for their protection. This story carries deep spiritual meaning in Jewish tradition. It teaches that reality is not limited to what humans can see. God's presence and protection often operate beyond physical sight, guiding events in ways people may not immediately understand. The message encourages faith during uncertainty and reminds believers that divine help can exist even when circumstances appear impossible. For many readers, this narrative is not just history, it is a lesson in trust. It shows that fear decreases when faith increases, and that God's unseen guardians can stand between danger and those who rely on Him. In Hinduism, Elisha's army of angels and the battle of celestial powers. In Hinduism, the idea behind Elisha's vision of an unseen heavenly army can be understood through the broader concept of celestial powers described in sacred texts like the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita. These scriptures often describe divine forces working beyond human sight, guiding the balance between good and evil. Just as Elisha's servant could not initially see the protecting angels, many Hindu stories explain that divine assistance becomes visible only when spiritual awareness increases. For example, the gods, devas, led by figures like Indra, are described as protectors who intervene when righteousness, dharma, is threatened. In the Mahabharata, warriors are not only supported by physical strength, but also by divine blessings and celestial weapons, symbolizing unseen spiritual power working alongside human effort. This comparison highlights a shared spiritual message. The universe operates on both visible and invisible levels. Hindu philosophy teaches that faith, discipline, and devotion help individuals connect with higher protection. Like Elisha's vision, these traditions remind believers that moments of fear can transform into courage when one realizes that divine forces may already be present, silently guiding events toward justice and balance. In Buddhism, Elisha's army of angels and the world of protective spirits. In Buddhism, the unseen world is alive with protective forces, and one can imagine them as a spiritual echo of Elisha's army of angels, silently guarding and guiding those who seek wisdom and compassion. Just as Elisha's army of angels appeared in moments of divine protection, Buddhist teachings speak of devas, guardian spirits, and protective beings who watch over the faithful, shielding them from danger and guiding them on the path of mindfulness. Stories of monks walking through forests or pilgrims traveling distant lands often mirror the concept of Elisha's army of angels, where invisible forces intervene, prevent harm, and inspire courage. These beings are not objects of worship, but allies who amplify the power of good intentions, ensuring that acts of kindness ripple through the world. Recognizing Elisha's army of angels in this context reminds us that protection and guidance are never distant. They surround those who live with awareness and compassion. By acknowledging these protective spirits, much like the biblical vision of Elisha's army of angels, we cultivate gratitude, humility, and a deep sense of moral responsibility, understanding that even in silence, the forces of good are always near, ready to guard and uplift us. In Sikhism, Elisha's army of angels and the shield of divine power. In Sikhism, the concept of divine protection is profound, and one can envision it through the lens of Elisha's army of angels, a striking metaphor for the unseen forces that safeguard the faithful. Just as Elisha's army of angels appeared to protect and fight for the righteous in sacred stories, Sikh teachings emphasize that the shield of divine power surrounds every soul devoted to truth, compassion, and dharam. The Guru Granth Sahib frequently reminds us that God's presence is our ultimate protector, and this spiritual shield manifests in countless forms, guiding, guarding, and inspiring courage during life's trials. Many Sikhs recount moments where they felt invisible assistance during danger or uncertainty, experiences that echo the idea of Elisha's army of angels silently standing guard. This imagery underscores a vital lesson. Faith, righteous action, and surrender to the divine invite protection beyond the physical realm. By reflecting on Elisha's army of angels alongside the shield of divine power, we recognize that no challenge is faced alone. Unseen yet vigilant forces accompany those who walk the path of righteousness. Understanding this connection not only strengthens devotion but also cultivates courage, resilience, and a deep appreciation for the divine order that tirelessly works to preserve and uplift every being.